I want to tell you a story. A story about power, pride, downfall, and destiny. A story that begins on the day I was fired. Yes, fired, not by my boss, but by his son, a young man who had just taken over the company. The moment he stepped into power, the very first decision he made was to remove me. No meeting, no warning, no conversation, just a simple sentence: "We don't need you anymore." And just like that, my years of loyalty, dedication, and sleepless nights were erased. But what he didn't know, what he couldn't imagine, is that the very decision he made out of arrogance would become the reason he lost everything. Let me take you backyard. I wasn't just an employee, I was the backbone. For years, I had been the person who kept everything running. I knew the clients, I knew the systems, I knew the risks, I knew the secrets of success that kept the company alive. But to him, I was old school, replaceable, someone who didn't fit his new vision. He thought power meant removing the people who built the foundation. He thought leadership meant showing force instead of showing wisdom. So he fired me, and he celebrated it. But life has a very interesting way of. When I walked out of the company doors that day, I felt broken. Not because I lost a job, but because loyalty seemed meaningless. But sometimes, losing something becomes the reason you gain everything. And sometimes, removing the right person becomes the beginning of your own destruction. Because you see, the company didn't fall because of me. It fell because of his pride. You can replace a chair. You can replace a computer. But you cannot replace experience. You cannot replace wisdom. You cannot replace the person who knows how to make things work when everything goes wrong. And it didn't take long for him to realize that. 1 month later, the clients started leaving, the departments fell apart, deadlines were missed, deals collapsed, the numbers started dropping faster than he could understand. He tried everything, new hires, new strategies, new systems, but nothing worked, because when the foundation is cracked, no building survives. He fired the wrong person, at the wrong time, for the wrong reason, and now he was paying the price. The call that changed everything. One evening, my phone rang. It was him. His voice, once filled with arrogance, was now filled with fear. He said, "Can you please come back? I need your help. The company is falling apart." And at that moment, I realized something extremely powerful. Success doesn't come from titles. Success comes from the people who work with heart. But I also learned another truth. When God removes you from a place, sometimes it's because He's preparing a better place for you. So I told him, "No, my chapter there is closed." And I hung up the phone. The rise after the fall. Instead of going back to save the company that disrespected me, I started building my own. What they thought was my defeat was actually my rebirth. What they thought was the end of my story was only the beginning of a much greater one. And as my new journey grew stronger, his company continued to fall. The same company he snatched from his father. The same company he thought he could run without guidance, without humility, without respect, collapsed right in front of him. And in losing everything, he learned the lesson he refused to learn when he had everything. What this story really means. This is not just a story about being fired. This is a story about destiny, karma, and growth. Sometimes, people remove you from their life because your presence threatens their insecurity. Sometimes people fire you because they cannot fire their own ego. But remember this: when someone pushes you down, God is preparing to lift you higher, far higher than they can ever reach. Today, I stand stronger, wiser, and freer than ever before. And to anyone listening, if you've ever been rejected, ignored, underestimated, or pushed aside, don't break, don't collapse, don't doubt your worth, because sometimes, rejection is redirection, endings are beginnings, and being fired is the first step toward being free. Final message. So remember this: when someone thinks they're hurting you, they might actually be helping you. When someone removes you from their world, God might be opening the universe for you. And when someone fires you, they may not realize they just fired the one person who could have saved them.